I once sat with a mom who finally slept through the night after getting a voucher. Stability. Then the funding changed, and so did her bill. That's the story no one tells. The rent didn't rise because the landlord got greedy. It rose because Congress didn't. If house flat funding or a half patch in the Senate becomes law, agencies will be forced to choose. Fewer vouchers or pushing families past that 30% income cap. Stick with me. I'll show how this budget line quietly knocks on your door with a bigger bill. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. You think rent spikes mean a landlord got cute with the numbers. But here's the catch. Your bill can climb even when your landlord doesn't edit a single line. The lever sits upstream. It's the voucher formula, and when the money feeding it tightens, your tenant portion takes the hit. Let's break it down. Housing choice vouchers are built to keep your rent burden at about 30% of your income. That's the guardrail. The federal subsidy covers the rest of the contract rent, so you still have cash for food, meds, childcare, the basics. When the system works, that split protects you from wild rent swings and keeps you stable even if wages are stuck or the market is frothy. Now the tension. CBPP flags that current funding already trails real costs. The House aims for flat funding. The Senate nudges it up, but not enough to close the gap. Translation in plain English. The pot doesn't match the tab. At today's rent levels, that means you either buy fewer meals or shrink the plate. In voucher terms, agencies either reduce the number of vouchers on the street or squeeze what each voucher can cover. Here's the quiet mechanism no one sees. Local housing agencies get a fixed pool of cash to pay landlords. That pool has to stretch across every leased unit every month. When rents float up or admin costs tick higher while the pool stays the same, the math forces choices. Stop reissuing vouchers when someone moves. Lower payment standards so the max covered rent sits below the going rate. Or let the tenant piece creep past that 30% guardrail. Same apartment, same landlord, different split? Think of it like your employer cutting their share of your health plan. The premium didn't change. Your bill did. You still see the same doctor, but now you're swiping your card more times and crying at the receipt. That's what flat funding does in housing. The benefit still exists on paper, but your wallet is doing the heavy lifting. Bring receipts. CBPP warns that underfunding means fewer households served or cost-cutting at agencies. And there's a timer beeping in the background. The emergency housing vouchers were time-limited. Without renewal, that support falls off a cliff. If EHVS lapse while the main voucher program is stretched thin, you get a double squeeze. More people falling back into the pool just as the pool shrinks. A quick vignette. A mom with a steady voucher gets a letter. Tenant portion adjusted. No change in rent. No change in income. She calls the office, and the answer is bland but brutal. Payment standards are updated, and the subsidy share shifted. Her budget is now missing $200 a month. That's groceries. That's gas to work. The landlord never touched the lease. The formula did. And the twist gets sharper. Proposed house language would let agencies raise what voucher holders or even public housing residents pay to patch the budget hole. No fancy workaround. Just a higher bill for the lowest incomes. It turns the safety net into a cost transfer tool. So here's the mini payoff. The rent hike is policy, not vibes. When Congress flat funds, the shortfall flows downhill, and you're standing at the bottom with a rent letter you didn't see coming. It's real. It's happening. So how big is the squeeze? We're talking which households, which cities, how many dollars, and how fast the letters hit? Let's put numbers to the pain and map where the pressure shows up first. Flat funding sounds harmless, right? Like when Netflix holds your plan price steady. But here's the catch. In housing, a freeze acts like a cut. Costs move. Budgets don't. That gap shows up as fewer vouchers or bigger bills for the same apartment. It's real. It's happening. Let's break it down. Rents climb, utilities climb, admin costs climb. If the money stays flat, Agencies buy less housing with the same dollars. So they pick their poison. Stop reissuing vouchers when families move, or raise what current tenants have to pay. Both choices push people toward the edge. Neither fixes the math, and the squeeze isn't vague. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities ran the numbers. Under the House plan, an estimated 411,000 fewer people get vouchers. The Senate version trims the damage but still leaves about 243,300 fewer served. That's not paperwork, that's keys. Kids, seniors, and people with disabilities are a big share of that group. You don't debate policy at that point. You decide who sleeps indoors. Here's the math in your wallet. If agencies drop payment standards 5 to 10% below market and let the 30% cap loosen, the tenant portion can jump $150 to $300 a month. On a $20,000 annual income, that's not a tweak. That's groceries, meds, bus passes, and the phone bill getting evicted from your budget. One letter. One new number. Everything else has to give. The timing makes it worse. The Emergency Housing Voucher Program stabilized 70,000 households. It's time-limited. Without renewal, roughly 58,000 are at risk of losing that support as the funding runs out next year. Now layer that on top of an underfunded main voucher program. Perfect storm. More households falling off the EHV plank while the Life Raft, HCV, has fewer seats. And it doesn't stop at tenants. The ecosystem depends on predictable subsidies. Project-based vouchers and project-based rental assistance anchor deals. When cuts hit, predictability dies. Lenders price in risk, and construction stalls. Supply tightens. Landlords stop playing ball, and rents get sticky. States like Mississippi, West Virginia, and Maine could see 16 to 20% of multifamily units tied to project-based subsidies take a hit. In Rhode Island, it's closer to 1 in 4. That's not a rounding error. That's a market tilt. Investors watch risk like hawks. Fitch and other bond analysts look at high-P contract reliability as a core financing pillar. Shake that confidence and borrowing costs rise. A couple basis points here, a few there, and your project's debt service blows up the pro forma. Deals die in silence long before a ribbon cutting. Tenants don't get notices about that. They just never see new doors open. Now the kicker. The House bill includes language letting HUD allow agencies to raise rents on voucher holders or public housing residents with no real guardrails. Translation: shift the tab to the lowest incomes to patch a federal hole. The Senate adds some money and flexibility, but the shortfall remains. Cities won't choose cruelty. They'll be cornered into it. So here's the thing. The invisible rent hike is structural. Fewer vouchers on the street. Higher tenant shares where vouchers survive. Development choked off because financing spooks easily. All this from a budget line most people never read, written by people who don't have to open your rent letter. You're not ready for what's next because the fix isn't glamorous. It's timing, renewals, and guardrails on the 30% cap. It's emergency funds bridged before the letters go out, not after. So when do you push your city and your reps to stop the pass-through pain and force a real funding level instead of a freeze that acts like a cut?